Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale, and this is Zero Limits Living. Every week, I bring you information and inspiration that's designed to transform your life. This week is something I remember being a turning point for you, something that is going to stick with you because it's going to be a catalyst for change. Stay with me because miracles await. Now, my guest this time is a longtime friend of mine, music producer, my music producer. He is the founder and lead singer for the band Porter Davis, and he co-authored a book called The Remembering Process. And if you look close, his co-author is Joe Vitale. So we are the dynamic duo here. And what we want to do is explain the remembering process to you. Because what I do in these episodes is give you a technique, give you inspiration, give you information that you can immediately take to the bank, so to speak. You can immediately apply it and use it and go in the direction of the title of the show, Zero Limits Living. So without further ado, as Shakespeare said, Daniel, how are you?
I am so good. So happy to see you. I get to hang out with my dear friend. What could be better? You know, this is our virtual hang, or really popcorn, as we sometimes call it. We're going to popcorn a little bit.
And that's what we call it. When Daniel and I get together for Thai food and coffee, we call what we do popcorning. And what that means is our conversation doesn't have any real structure to it. It's very spontaneous. One thing leads to another. We both end up being surprised by whatever comes up. This TV episode is an example of that because neither one of us have planned. Neither one of us got together beforehand and said, oh, let's talk about this or let's strategize this. I have a tiny bit of an agenda because I want to explain the remembering process to the viewer. But outside of that, I don't know what we're going to talk about. And to give you an example, Daniel, why is there a blackboard behind your head?
Well, I'm taking it to the next level. I've watched a lot of what you do about the whiteboard, and yes. I have filled that is a whiteboard filled with so much wisdom that it ran out of room and became a blackboard. Yeah. So that's
when you bought it, did they sell you an eraser? Because you can erase some of what's there, and go back and add some things to it.
That's the ideas are too good. Why would I do that? I just have to now figure out which one is which. I don't know. When we signed on, it just said Roy in the upper left-hand corner of my blackboard. I mean, my whiteboard that is filled with ideas. And I honestly didn't remember who Roy was. So I'm going to erase this. So if
like
we can figure out.
Is that like Red Wagon? You just don't know where it started?
Well, I think it's the Roy Rogers guitar that your dad got you. I think we need to tie in the Roy Rogers guitar. That's one of my favorite Joe Vitale stories. And I have a lot of favorite Joe Vitale stories.
I almost feel like I should just leave the room and let you talk for a while. But I'm not going to do that. This is my show, for God's sake. I'm going to stay here.
No,
I'm going to stay here. We're going to talk. So first of all, thank you for doing this for me and for the people that are viewing now and eventually will be watching over time. I'm not exactly sure where to begin, but since we're talking about the remembering process, and I want to make sure people know about the book and the technique and know enough about it to use it, what is the remembering process? How would you define it?
The remembering process. Oh, go ahead.
No, in a moment or two, how would you define it?
It is the easiest and most enjoyable way to call forth your desired future and live it in the present. I mean, Neville did it. So many of our heroes did it. And it is the latest and greatest way to get out of your own way by instead of trying too hard to create, just remembering because it's already happened in some frame of mind, some frame of time, that which you seek already exists. And like we said when we started this year, I don't honestly remember how many years ago we started doing this technique together, but it's easier to remember than it is to create. And then it's just kind of like falls off the bone. It's just easy peasy to create. And
Yeah, let me interrupt you there because let me just tell the quick story of how this was introduced to me. I had hired Daniel many years ago to help me produce my first albums. And the very first singer-songwriter album I struggled with because I didn't have a musical background. I didn't have even belief in myself. I didn't have any sort of lessons in writing songs or in vocalizing anything or working with a band or putting a band together or going into the studio, not as a musician. I did it as a speaker. And I remember when I was struggling with the songs, like I want to write songs for my own album and then go in the studio and record them. And there was a turning point moment when you said, it's easier to remember than it is to create. And I think I still got a crick in my neck because I did the whiplash thing and I turned around and was like, what? My mind was turning inside out. And I said, what do you mean it's easier to remember than it is to create? And that's when you started to the beginning of explaining the remembering process to me. And do you remember what you said? Do you remember how you explained it to me?
Help me out with that one.
No,
Help me out with that one.
No, I want to.
I don't remember.
How ironic. No, yes. You, as I recall, and a lot of this is in the book, but as I recall, you were explaining that in a future dimension, I'll use that word, in a future dimension, the songs I want to write already exist. They're
Correct.
Already real. They're already concrete.
Correct.
They're already even
Correct.
Recorded. And what I'm being asked to do is to remember the future. So I'm pausing to see if you want to add something because I can easily
100%. That is the basic. Yeah, no, that is exactly the point, and where you took it to the next level, and it's giving me chills. It's not a parlor trick, just thinking about it again, as though it were that night you sent me an email and said, where did you learn that technique and what else have you been applying it to? And I said, yes. I don't know. That's just how I've always written songs, and I've applied it to nothing else. And that's when we both kind of went, uh-oh. And, and then it turned into this book project, which is a whole other story, but that is the method, and that is the technique. And what's going to be great about this conversation is I'm going to be able to better than ever outline there's white belt remembering process and black belt remembering process.
Oh,
and
nice.
I'll be able to outline both of those because it's our ability to bring people into the process has evolved over the time since we kind of stumbled on it, because I had always done that as a songwriter. It started with a song I have called Carter's Tune. I don't know if you remember that song, but I wrote it in 15 minutes. And I'm not this, that's not bragging, because it's almost like I dictated it. I don't feel like I did anything. And there are others that I've kind of efforted more over, but Carter's Tune is arguably the best song I've written because it's been the most requested, the most impactful. And it was almost like just pulling it out of the air. And it was a gift from the universe. I'm going to say a word that's can be divided. It was a gift from God, if you will. It was a gift from the divine, whatever word for the great something that because it's all, it all works for me. I don't care what we call that, but it was a gift. And it was really it wasn't even arguable. Like, I didn't know that song 15 minutes earlier, 15 minutes later, I remembered it as though it were coming off the radio. And I said, wow, I got one of those little peeks into the fabric of things. And I was never the same. And I can't say that that's one of the things I would like to talk about to clear it up for some people, is that it doesn't mean that we always have that peek behind the curtain, but we've learned that we can set things up to get access to it more often than if we weren't trying at all. than if we weren't playing. If we weren't, I'm trying is probably not the right word. If we weren't playing with it, because it's really a very playful technique.
There's so many things that I can riff on here. Well, first of all, I do remember that day, and I do remember that evening when I sent you the email. Before I sent you the email, I actually poked around and I went looking for something that told me about the remembering process. And the only thing involving remembering had to do with grief recovery. And so there were books about recovering from grief because you're remembering things that traumatized people in the past. And that's not what you were talking about at all. This is about kind of a shortcut to creating. It's kind of like a creativity hack. And
I'm going to push you there.
Yeah.
I'm going to push you there. Instead of the shortcut, I'm going to call it the path to creating, because it is, because it is a direct line to the divine. And so it is co-creating with the divine spirit. Keep going. But I really want, I want to change the frame on it, what if this is actually the path to it and everything else is just mucking up the waters unnecessarily?
I love it. And I'm going to push on the white belt versus black belt. I want to hear about that in a minute. But before we go there, I want to make sure that we bring everybody together, because all the people watching aren't in the same level, the same place as we are at this point. Because after all, we did write the book and we've had years of experience with this. So I remember in real time, remembering the past, being in the studio with you and telling you I wasn't sure the title of my album. I wasn't sure the songs that I was going to put on the album. And you and I together started to playfully do this remembering. And the remembering was a speculation. It was a little bit like I had a dream 2 or 3 nights ago. I mean, literally, I had a dream 2 or 3 nights ago, and trying to remember the dream, it comes to me in pieces. But as I take the piece that comes to me, I start to see other pieces related to it open up a little bit. Then I start to go, aha, now I have more of that dream. In this way, you and I were playfully exploring the finished CD. In fact, I remember at one point we were talking about, we were holding the CD and we took the cellophane off and we were looking at the cover and we were speculating, does the cover, I think the cover says this, and it says Strut or it says Blue Healer. Neither one of us knew for sure, but we were playfully in a chasing a dream kind of a quality, trying to make it concrete. So we were, help me out here. We were trying to remember the future item that already existed by kind of going into the future to take a better look at it. Does this help?
It helps a lot. We're evoking sense memories. So there's this is what's exciting. I'm going to take that black belt versus the white belt. Neither are better. Let's start with the white belt. We're starting with this dreamlike state, and it's like remembering. We go 10 years into the future, and then we remember back on this conversation, and I remember us finishing it with massive smiles on our face. And the joy of elucidating, even for ourselves. And in this conversation, this very one, we're now 10 years in the future, remembering back to this date in the end of March in 2022, all the way back 10 years ago. And you and I were just beaming, feeling like we were opened up from root to crown. There we are again. We did it again. We inspired each other. And what does that do? Well, it does a lot of things. It evokes sense memories. This goes back, I've known you pre-Secret, but I can't remember which of the teachers it was. Maybe it was Michael Bernard Beckwith who said, we live in a feeling universe. Was that his? I forget which one said that. That's the first person I ever heard say that. It's like, we live in a feeling universe. And I'm like, I was a younger lad. I'm like, what is he talking about? But, so the white belt is still pretty good, because if we have the ability to evoke feelings of inspiration, of being alive from root to crown. And all we do is to kind of sort of jog our sense of reality a little bit to feel like we're remembering something. Is it put on? Sure. But we're also taking control of the thing that creates our sense memories, and we're giving ourselves awfully good feelings and putting ourselves in a fantastic frame of mind. So the white belt's not too bad, right? If you knew you could immediately feel more connected, more turned on by the moment, more alive with possibility. I mean, you're opening up the possibility that this very conversation is going to really spur on our next 5 groundbreaking projects by opening us up from root to crown, opening up our thoughts, opening up our hearts, opening up our minds. Pretty cool, right? Did I have to sort of prime the pump a little bit by going out into the future? Absolutely. And then looking back, sure. And sort of invoking that sort of dreamlike feeling. Okay, white belt. So we did it. We primed the pump a little bit. Now the black belt is where that's where it becomes divine. That's where that is where the remembering process. We talk about it in the remembering process, but I never called it white belt versus black belt. It's just a new frame to understand. The black belt is if you practice this mindset, if you open yourself to possibility, if you relax, knowing that this is possible. So you've kind of you've unhooked from your fears that this might not work out, whatever this is, whatever the love, the money, the project, the health, whatever it is. If you've now seen it possible, felt it as real, and you've practiced that art in the white belt way, every once in a while, like what happened with Carter's Tune, like what happened with this very book, The Remembering Process, like what happened with almost every one of the albums we did with you, especially the first one. Sometimes the divine, again, we're going to call it God, we're going to call it the great something, we're going to call it divinity, will enter the program and then take it way past whatever you were doing by just invoking these feelings. So that is that black belt where you're now opening yourself up to that possibility. And I'm not here to say that it happens every time, because that's the beauty of living in bodies. We get to play this game where we dance between the two. But by throwing ourselves open and practicing this technique, it makes you ready to receive some of the most incredible blessings when the divine does enter. That was a long explanation. That's the first time we created the frame white belt versus black belt remembering process.
I love that. I love that. One way that I've explained the remembering process over the years, and I want to do it now because I want to make sure everybody's on the same page with us as we move forward. I would say that people usually have heard about mental imagery, visualization. And mental imagery and visualization is where you sit here now and you visualize what you would like to have, do, or be, which is a powerful technique. It's backed up by science. It's been proven for decades, if not 100 or more years. So mental imagery, visualization works. However, the person you mentioned earlier was Neville Goddard, one of my favorite authors. I had republished his very first book long after he had died. He deeply influenced me. And he talked about feeling the wish fulfilled. So he went a step beyond mental imagery and visualization by asking you to not imagine what you want in the future, imagine it as already happening right now, and step into it and feel it. And as one of the songs you and I recorded with the Grammy-nominated fantastic singer Ruthie Foster, Feel It Real, what we do is kind of a second level manifestation. We feel it. We don't only see it, we step into it. The remembering process goes beyond all of that. In my opinion, the way I describe it is that what we are trying to manifest already got manifested. And we go into the future past the point of its creation, past it, and we turn around and kind of look back to remember, how did we create that? I gave a presentation about the remembering process to the Transformational Leadership Council. These are the movers and shakers in personal development. And one of the people that came up after it, they were all blown away. They all loved it. Jack Canfield was there, who endorsed the book, and lots of other people. One of them came up and said, one of the beautiful things about the remembering process and what I described is that there's an underlying assumption that what you want already happened. You don't have to
Yes.
work for it. You don't have to strive for it. That there's a sense of relaxation and ease because the struggle's over. If you already knew it happened, even if it happened in the future, you're not really worried about it. It's just like, I know it's coming. Does that make sense? Would you add anything to that?
100 things. You get. It's like enjoying this conversation for the first time, and we've been having it for years. I'm just so lit up. So many thoughts. Here's where I'm gonna go into uncharted territory. I'm gonna go at the edge of thought for me here. Some things I haven't said in this way. It is real to me. Mm-hmm. I truly stand in a place where I believe every song I will ever write is written in some frame of mind and some frame of time. That actually sounds like a song, some frame of mind, some frame of time. That might be one of them. Yeah, really gotta, luckily we're recording this. Some frame of mind, some frame of time. Every song I'll ever write is written and is existing and is being enjoyed on some level. That thought, well, I can't prove it. Carter's tune came off that sort of belt. I mean, I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan. And he was saying that especially his early catalog, he was just receiving the songs. They were coming to him whole. Mm. And so many great works of art and thought and feeling have been received in that way. So I believe in a frame of time that that physicists and people much smarter than myself have not been able to completely articulate and prove with instruments and gauges, but people very intelligently are working on the elasticity of time and the multiple frames of time. So there are scientific ways to back into this thought. I'm not burdened by those. I'm burdened by my own anecdotal experience and the way that that experiencing this has made my life so much better and richer and brought so many blessings to me. So that's the first thing, is that the white belt version is we're kind of getting our head around it and playing with it. And then occasionally in that black belt version, it's happening. We're pulling stuff from the divine, if we believe that divine is timeless, and the divine is stepping into our experience at times, we are experiencing a timeless experience where knowledge and understanding and divinity in the things that we, this sort of playground of earth, this bodily experience, we're getting to kind of mix the two experiences. And it's like the Reese's peanut butter cup of creation, because it's like, I'm still very physical, but yet I'm having these divine moments along the way, and I'm opening myself up more to it by getting my ego. That was the other thing I wanted to say, is that the sort of practice in the white belt is practicing techniques that get this ego. We have this ego that's trying to keep us safe. Don't do crazy things here, and don't write songs. They're all going to laugh at you, and don't have that financial goal, and don't have the love of your life, because you're just going to get hurt. That ego, it's this animal body trying to keep us safe, and that's charming and important, in certain evolutionary ways, but sure can be a hindrance if we can't shut it off. And so the white belt is practicing getting that out of the way with this technique. And then occasionally when we get these winds of beauty that just knock it open to this whole other dimension.
So let me go with that for a second, because I know that there's going to be some people watching that are going to say things like, I do want to be safe. I don't want to take any crazy risk. And even more importantly, I don't know what I want anyway. I don't know what I want. Ooh. I wish I knew what I want, but I don't know what I want. How would you or the remembering process, or both, or something else, help them with, I don't know what I want?
I would approach that from a bunch of different ways. I'm such a Joe Vitale fan, so I'm gonna quote you. I'm gonna play your lick like a musician.
I'm starting to feel I'm totally unnecessary. I'm unnecessary on my own show. You're
the most necessary. You're the most necessary. I'm giving it up to how you changed so many of our lives. You said, I'm gonna get in your face. You're not gonna like this. Remember that?
Of course.
I'm playing your licks back to you
Right.
in a playful and fun way. So the first thing I'm going to do is playfully get in their face and say, I don't believe you. Everybody knows something they want. And that's the ego again, just trying to, sometimes sadly people have learned not to want. Some people have had really painful experiences that have sort of almost taught them to not reach for the cookie jar of life. And I have compassion for that. And, so the first thing is to call a little tiny bit of BS, like everybody knows something they want. And sometimes they just want peace. Like maybe, one of my favorite Gandhi quotes is like, some people are so hungry that the only form, and I'm paraphrasing it, I apologize, but the only form God can appear to them is bread. God can only appear to them in the form of bread. They're so hungry. Yeah. And so some people are so anxious and hurt that just dreaming of peace would be, remembering peace would probably be a really soulful way to start remembering. I just remember a time when I could drop my shoulders, relax my chest and my stomach, and feel safe and feel some peace. And that comfort of remembering that and seeing it as possible, man, that seems like a win right out of the gate. So there's this kind of playful, I'm going to get in your face if people are just in their own way, but other people really do. They've been hurt and they really do need to just imagine themselves feeling peace and remember themselves feeling peace.
I love it. I had interviewed Mandy Evans a few weeks back, and she had quoted somebody that she knew who said, if you don't know what you want, go sit in a chair, because sooner or later you're going to want something and you're going to get up. And I love the simplicity of it. It was almost ridiculous, but it was like, yeah, you're going to sit in a chair until you get hungry, or you have to go to the bathroom, or you're going to turn on the TV. You're going to want something. Now, the other thing is, this is the other side of wanting. And I was reviewing our book earlier. We really wrote a masterpiece. This is really a good book.
I love that book.
and well, you should.
Could I stop you for a sec? Yeah. I need to show. I've been wanting to read this because we wrote several books, Joe. I have them sitting right here. And in addition to, this is just for a guitar player from the suburbs of New York, we in addition to the remembering process, we also wrote Il metodo dei ricordi in Italian.
The Italian version. Yeah.
Le miracle. I can't say it. Le miraculeux. My French teacher from ninth grade is going to be so upset. I'm sorry, Madame Michel. Le miraculeux procès des souvenirs. And, nice. You don't get a free souvenir with the book. I'm sorry. But we'll send you a signed one. But anyway, I'm just so excited that, and I think it was, I don't know where the German version is, but I think it was translated into several others as well. So and that's really mind-blowing to me.
It's a beautiful thing to know that it's going around the world and touching lives. Where I was going with my question, though, is the other side of wanting, because in the book, we talk about the problem with wanting something. Now, it sounds ironic because I just said, what about when somebody doesn't know what they want? And so the first level is knowing what you want. But the second level, from the remembering process, I'll let you finish this. What is the problem from a wanting law of attraction stating, I want money, I want a relationship, I want a house, I want an awakening, I want spirituality, I want fill in the blank?
98.76% of the time, and we had this measured by some scientists who will remain unnamed, they're from Canada, 98.76% of the time, that wanting has an underlying doubt in it.
Yes.
Very few people know how to want. And I have, again, this is the Joe Vitale appreciation show. It is the opposite of we don't need you. You have taught me so much. I've had a front row seat to watching you walk the walk. And, this And, you've taught me to be so grateful for what I have. Thank you so much for this. And I accept something better, this or something better. And thank you for what I have. And I still welcome, you've said it so much more pithy than that, but I've watched you embody that. Thank you so much for what is for the shirt on my back. Thank you for the miracle of a pencil. I mean, all of these stories that I've been able to hear and recounted. So back to your question, 98.76% of people, when they say they want something, there is some inherent egoic fear that somehow it's not going to happen. And they don't even know it. It's happening too fast. Nevilleizing, or Neville Goddard, I'm pronouncing it correctly, but took it a step further to feel it real. What does he say? The experience, he said, again, they say it so nicely, but to the experience of having it fulfilled, the wish fulfilled, right?
Yes.
And we take it further. Even that, I feel like the popular visualization techniques still left some room for people to short circuit themselves and let fears creep in. But something about going 10, 20 years past and having this fuzzy and keeping it general. There's something general about remembering that. And I have so many fans. I mean, so I'm a fan of so many. Well, that is something I remember. I'm a fan of so many great teachers, and I'm a big fan of Abraham and Esther Hicks through channels, and they have encouraged us to, if at times, keep it very general. Don't get too specific. Keep it nice and light and general, and let the details come. And they have a slightly different approach, but I think the methodologies are cousins in that way. They're akin to each other, because something about going out into the future and getting to that wispy, almost vague memory and starting there, it somehow short circuits that doubt circuit that is trying to keep us safe in a very limiting and not life-giving way.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, because what's going on with remembering is that you're no longer wanting, you're actually owning.
Yes.
It's the difference between wanting and being. If I sit here and say, I want I'm a car guy, so I might mention a car, but if I remember that I had gotten this particular car, there's no longer a wanting there. If anything, there's a little bit of a waiting for the reality of it to show up and me and it meet on the timeline of life. So I'm trying to make this clear for people that wanting, as you explained it, has a sense of doubt and desperation in it most of the time. But if they use the remembering process and remember back to when they actually accomplished, attracted, achieved whatever it is they want, the doubt's gone. Now it's just a matter of, I'm going to get it. I already own it actually in the future. So you're being it. From a Neville standpoint, you are feeling it real. Correct?
I need your help with this one. More than correct. It's like experiencing it all. It's like having the conversation for the first time again. And it's so fun remembering it. Something that I've done and I haven't talked about yet, this is the first time talking about it even with you, but to go so far, okay, let's say it's the dream car, to remember having it, remember driving it, remember having it for multiple years and then finally selling it, to go through the whole cycle with it. Not only do you have it, but you're kind of over it. There's this sense of having the full wave of enjoyment. And there's a way in which, again, it short circuits your ego, and your fears are like, wait a second. So not only did I get it, but I'm already over it. And it kind of releases you.
I love it. That is so charming and such a breakthrough way of looking at it. Not only did I get it and enjoy it, but I'm over it.
Not only did I find the love of my life, but I'm kind of annoyed with them right now. We're so comfortable. We're arguing over what to eat for dinner. I'm kidding. I'm pushing that a little a little too far. And I will say that keeping it light, not taking the remembering process too seriously, it is a game. It is a technique. It can be very beautiful. It can be exalted. It can be filled with the spirit of divinity. But it's like music. As I play this technique, I find that a sense of lightness, a sense of play is really at the root of it. And that is the spirit that it was born of for both of us. It was really lovely and playful. And it took something that was already kind of fun and really is still, again, I still get chills this many years after it. And it's just still reverberating as a playground and reality for you and I, and anybody who wants to play it with us. I mean, that is miraculous in and of itself, that we're still we get this much joy out of it.
It's exhilarating. So I want to tell a quick story, and I'll let you correct me or embellish or enlarge on it here. And the quick story is I had hired you years ago for a 1-year tutoring program, one entire year, where you would teach me about writing songs, singing, music, putting a band together, going into the studio, and ultimately at the end of the year, having my very first album. And early on in that first year, the publisher of a magazine in Austin, Texas, had come to me and said, I want to put you on the cover of the magazine. And I said, cool, for what? He said, whatever you want. Wow, a blank check to be on the cover of the magazine. How wonderful. And then I started thinking, well, I'm going to be a musician. Maybe this could be my launch. Maybe we could announce it to at least Austin, Texas, and San Antonio and the surrounding central Texas area, and put me on the cover with a guitar, something like that. And then I asked the publisher, I said, when are you planning to do this? And he said, in a couple months. And I thought, oh, well, I'm in a year-long program. I can't really do it. And then I thought, wait a minute, who says I can't? Where are the rules about time? Where are the rules about creativity? Where are the rules about possibility? I live in a world where I believe in magic and miracles. We call this show Zero Limits Living. If there's no limits, how come I can't do the album in a couple months? And I remember I went to you, Daniel, sitting in the studio, and I told you this whole story. And I remember I asked you, I said, you know, your year-long program, can we do it in like 2 or 3 months? And I remember your eyes got really big. You were quiet for a moment. And you get a standing ovation for this. You said, yes, we'll find a way. And long story short, using the remembering process, using our skills of persistence, our willingness to do whatever it takes, our openness to a new way of being, our realization that time is made up anyway, so we can do this. And the long story short is I ended up on the cover of the magazine with a feature article that plugged you and 2 other musicians that were helping me along the path. We did it. And I remember one time we remembered the cover of the magazine, which didn't exist, not in real time that I could hold up, but in the process. And we were playing with, what's the album cover look like? What's the magazine cover look like? And we were remembering it. I remembered that what I remembered is actually what ended up on the cover. And I not only remember it, I have the cover somewhere. And if I was thinking ahead of time, I'd have it to show at this point. Do you remember anything else around that
I do.
Amazing story?
I do. There are moments in our lives where if we open ourselves up to it, things converge. I imagine that The Secret was a convergence for you, where you're doing several things, and all of a sudden, things join, and now they've kind of multiplied, and there's some degree of magic involved, or I don't know if magic is, I'll call it magic right now. There are kismet, or whatever you want to say. We're going to call it magic. I happen to have been reading at that moment the Steve Jobs it wasn't autobiography. It was the Walter
long
Isaacson
biography of him. I remember that. Yes.
Walter Isaacson.
Yes.
And it talked about, was it reality interruption? There was
it's called reality distortion technique.
Reality distortion. So
that's what it is. Yes.
It was a convergence of time, which was, there were other things punctuating this moment, but it was a very heady moment where I was coming down to see you to ask you for advice about the world, about how I wanted to have a program that takes people with a yearning to have a life in music and helps them do that. And you listened to me very patiently and carefully, and then said, I've been looking for this program. Can I join? I didn't know that I was enrolling you. I thought I was asking you how to find other people. And so that happened. There's more to that, but very difficult for me, but I'm telling it as streamlined as possible. And then we started this process, and it was phenomenal. And we're jiving and we're vibing, and it's really, it's something else. And then I'm reading this Steve Jobs biography and the reality distortion, that he would tell his people, oh, you don't have 6 months to do this. You have 6 weeks. And and there I was in my studio, and you're saying, hey, can we do this in 3 months? And I'm looking at you and I'm like, well, I just read about that this week. I can only say yes, because it's clearly possible if it matters. And we're just going to have to go about this by other means. I'm going to dovetail this with a really cool technique that a coach of mine said recently, a productivity coach. I was taking on a lot of projects, and I just was kind of forgetting the elasticity of time and feeling overwhelmed. And he calls a technique 5 to 1. And I don't know exactly, I keep forgetting how 5 to 1 match, but basically, if you're going to do if something you think is going to take an hour, do it in 45. If it's going to take 45, find a way to do it in 30. If it's going to do 30, do it in 15, and just find a way. And he said, watch your days open up. Watch your days open up, because you're deciding. Watch yourself do that in 45 when you were convinced it was an hour-long task. Just watch. And because it was a decision. So you put me on the spot, and we did it. And not only did we do it, it's beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful.
And it is.
Blue Healer.
And Blue Healer was the name of the album. And for the record, because this is important, I started with zero experience as a musician. I definitely had guitars. I definitely knew 3 chords. I knew how to play the harmonica, but no musical training, certainly no musical confidence, and none of the other skills. And at this point, I have recorded 15 albums, 6 of them singer-songwriter albums that were produced by Daniel and what I call my band of legends. And that's a whole nother subject, because they are all legends in their own right. And the fact that they supported me and got on stage with me and recorded with me is a profound miracle. But Daniel, we're going to be running out of time. We're rounding the bend here, and I want to make sure we really help people. So if somebody's watching right now and they want to remember, because they want to attract it into their life, a new job or a spouse, or I don't know, fill in the blank, where would they start? Name something and give them a start here kind of an approach.
This is another approach to the remembering process that hasn't quite ever been articulated in this way.
Nice.
And it's not the only way to do it, but if you're out there and this has kind of got your attention and you want to try it, do this. Sleep with a journal near your bed and a pen and maybe a flashlight or whatever. You get try to not use the phone, because I think the phone, while I love my phone for a lot of things, it can be just the very mere presence of it can be jarring to the parts of us that I'm hoping to access with you. And now, if you remember your dreams, fine, and you want to write down your actual remembered dreams from the night before. But I've never recommended it like this in the morning when you're still in a sleep-like state, but you have just enough wherewithal to start to do something, start to do a technique. You're conscious enough to remember what I'm saying and try this. In that sort of foggy state, let's say there's love, a romantic love that you want to call towards you. You're in that sort of foggy state. Start remembering. Go 10 years or whatever number resonates with you, but I'm going to give you the number 10 as a start, in case that helps. But let's say 10 years past the day you and this love interest, or whatever it is that you're calling forth, really came together in a undeniable way. And you're 10 years past that, and you're looking back, and you're remembering, and you're using that white belt imagination, and you're remembering the feelings you had. And you might be remembering details, a restaurant that you went to where you locked eyes, and you remember what you might have been wearing, your favorite thing. You were dressed in a way that really made you feel comfortable and happy and pleased this person. And you remembered your feelings from head to toe. And you remembered the smile on your face. And it's vague, it's dreamlike. You're using that grainy memory of that groggy morning thoughts but just enough to kind of guide that type of thought, and then enjoy it. Wait till you fill up with the that sort of sweet, dreamlike memories of that date. Breathe and let it go. Don't hold on too hard. And then maybe the next day come back to it and keep playing with that morning after morning for just a few minutes. Don't kill it. Don't go too hard on it. Don't grasp it. Just enjoy it. Wait till you kind of have a sense of, that was a great memory, and move on.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for doing that. In the remaining time we have left here, I want to ask what are somewhat rapid fire, spontaneous, improvisational questions that I welcome your improv answers to.
Okay.
Are you game? Are you game to play?
Always up for the popcorn with you, Dr. Joe.
All right. Well, first question is, what question do you wish I would ask you, or somebody would ask you?
Oh, wow. What question do I wish? What question? That is okay. Give me 1 sec. That is not a question I wish somebody would ask me. No kidding. Not that one.
Yeah, I can give you the opposite. What question do you hope I won't ask you?
Oh, well, you can ask me anything. So I hope you will ask me. Got it. I hope you will ask me what it's like to know Dr. Joe Vitale, work with Dr. Joe Vitale, and learn from him as a friend, co-author, and bandmate. That's the question I wish you would ask.
Daniel, what is it like to know, work with, record, and be on stage with me?
It is a piece of heaven on earth. It is absolute joy. It is humor. It is an expansion of the heart, expansion of the mind, expansion of abundance. It is watching somebody who has talked the talk, watching front row as he walks the walk, as he does the things that he writes about, as he gifts, in more abundant ways than anyone I've ever seen, has helped me understand myself, has encouraged me when I'm down. Really just one of the great joys of my lifetime. That's what it's like.
Thank you. Don't even know what to say. Thank you.
Now, are you happy you asked?
I'm processing. Of course, your answer is flattering, and of course, you are a great joy to be with and work with.
It's not flattering. I'm not flattering you. I just get to. I really, and you would know if I just was. it's all, I can back it up with specific stories, and just, you have opened up so many lives through your writing, through your speaking. And I have had this, and we're buddies. And we also have just like talked about guitars and cars and mundane things. So, so it's not all just about, adulation, but, really just reflecting back to you, thank you from all of us for whom you have created so much opportunity, so much wisdom, and so much support. You've supported me so intensely over the years. And it's just, that's what came to me. Didn't know I was going to say that.
Thank you. That it chokes me up. All right.
Mm-hmm.
One more question.
Yes.
You did. Got me. One more question. What is a takeaway that you want? People have been hanging here. They're excited. Of course, we want them to go get the book. It's on Amazon. Hay House published it. Obviously, it's in various languages. It's in other countries. So go get the remembering process. But what would you say is a takeaway or a to-do or a thought or a quote, something they can chew on, something that they can take and run with right now, right as we end the show?
Believe, like Ted Lasso would say, believe in magic, believe in friendship, believe in music, believe in pushing thought, believe in the beauty of talking about things that are hard to talk about, but finding a way to do so. People have had have been thrown curveball after curveball for the last several years. And I'm aware of that. And I'm not a Pollyanna. I see that, and I've experienced some of it myself. And believe. The remembering process was magic. The music we've made together is magic. Our friendship is magic. And we're just dudes eating Thai food, talking about guitars. But the magic is real, and do not give up on yourself, and do not give up on the magic that be, because it is what adds flavor and color to this life. And to have a dream and to find techniques to bring that dream to life, and to get support and reach and seek out mentorship. Believe.
I love it. Do you want people to go to a website for your music or for the book, or any place?
MrFire.com. Go see Dr. Joe and look for the next, because I do remember us firing up that band of legends again. So go to all I want them to do is keep checking Mr. Fire and Joe Vitale for the next album that we make. Because I remember it might have been in 23, or it might have been late in 22. We usually make albums in January. So but it might've been in January of 23 that we finally got everybody in the same room together. But I want them to keep checking for, did you feel that?
I do.
Keep checking
Daniel.
For that next record. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say for the listeners, one particular song that I wrote and recorded was actually for and about Daniel. It's a song called Remember. And it's a hauntingly mystical, mysterious, magical, beautiful song. I've listened to it several times when it came up in the car on random play. And I think it's on my album Reflection. But the song is called Remember. And I think it would give you a taste of what the remembering process is like in musical form. Meanwhile, I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. This has been Zero Limits Living. Every week, I bring you inspiration and information to help you live an elevated life, the life that you've been longing for, dreaming about, and you deserve. You can watch this show on the Lux TV app. Download it, watch it anywhere. On Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire. I put up a website at ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com, and I'm putting all the episodes there. Plus, you can sign up to be reminded when the episodes go online. So ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. I want to thank Candace Barr, Lux Media, and Chris, who's running the studio there and making sure we look good and sound good. Meanwhile, I love you all and expect miracles.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radical, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient NASET. NASET increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.